Good evening. Our top story tonight, the NFL draft is just a few days away. Thursday, we are kicking things off in the NFL draft. We are so close. So this is the final Player Profiler Today episode hosted by me before the NFL draft. It is going to be very exciting. So today, I'm going to be bringing you my top 5 bold predictions for the NFL draft. We will talk quarterbacks, we will talk receivers, we will talk a tight end, and we will talk trades. And then I got a bonus little hot take at the very end for you all. And it all starts now on Player Profiler Today. Welcome in, everybody, to Player Profiler Today. My name is Matt Babich, your Saturday host, coming to you pre-recorded on this lovely Saturday afternoon, April 20th. So to celebrate the holiday, I thought I could put together my bold predictions, things that maybe you're a little under the influence when you think of. So 5 bold predictions for the NFL draft. I'm going to get right into it, and we're going to start with probably the least hot take when you consider the betting market influence, but when you consider the social media presence and reporting presence, I would consider it a hot take based on what people are talking about, and that is the under of 6.5 receivers taken in the first round will hit, and it'll hit with ease because I'm predicting that exactly 5 receivers go in the first round of the NFL draft. So when you look at the media presence behind the receivers and their draft stock, it is a very strong weight towards 7 or more receivers going in the first round. The popular take is that all of these receivers will go in the first round. All of these guys we love. And I'm here to say not so fast, my friend. Because, first of all, we have seen a lot of loaded receiver classes before. Even though this is one of the best ones we've seen in a long time. Even last year, there were quite a few really solid draft picks. I mean, we go back to 2020. Brandon Ayuk was a first-round pick, and while I agreed with that evaluation, many people didn't at the time, and even a guy like him got into the first round. But even in that 2020 class with a lot of good receivers, only 5 were taken in the first round. We look back into the 2023 class, not very strong, 3 receivers in the first round. We can go back in history, and we've truly never seen anything like this before. And that's why the over-under is set at a record number of receivers. And that's why suddenly lately, the betting market is very strongly hinting at less than 7, even less than 6. And so that's why I'm saying exactly 5, because as we all know, Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, absolute locks to go round 1. But then we go, and the next highest receiver based on betting market would be Brian Thomas Jr. He is minus 205 to go over pick 18.5. I'm fairly certain that he is going to be a first-round draft pick. So now we have 4. And so here's where things get interesting. We see a lot of people mocking Xavier Worthy in the top 30, hell, even in the top 20, top 25. But his market odds for draft position is over under pick 29.5. It's the very back end of the first round. His teammate, Adonai Mitchell, is at 27.5 with a strong presence on that over. So we have 2 guys that are being mocked towards the very, very back of the first round. And this is a very tepid market, the back of the first round. There is so many things that are going on in the middle of the first round, and we have a strong draft class in terms of edge rushers, offensive line, secondary players. There's going to be a wide range of team needs and there can be anything that happens. We like to think that these playoff competing teams that pick at the back of the first round are going to pick up another piece of talent. But what a lot of these forward-thinking organizations do is they trade out of that pick because it doesn't mean as much to them as it does to the team that's picking 35th, 40th. Those teams are going to want to try and move up. They do every single year. We have reports of teams trying to bump up back into the first round for guys like Michael Penix or Bo Nix. So there are a lot of strong reports going on about all of the different options that could play out in the back of the first round. And it's starting to look more and more like Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy may not be first round picks. But we're already at 4. So all we need to hit this bold prediction is for one of them to be selected in the first round and then the other to slip into the second. Personally, I think Xavier Worthy is a first round pick and Adonai Mitchell falls out of the top 32. That brings us to our 5 receivers. Now, I haven't seen a betting market that allows you to do position total exacts. So I don't think you can go on to a sports book and bet exactly 5 receivers to be taken in the first round. I could tell you that if I find that play, I will be playing it because as we'll get into with another one of my bold predictions, I have a strong feeling that a certain wide receiver is going to make it out of the first round. And we're going to be sitting at 5 exactly. We're going to be disappointed that a lot of these teams didn't pull the trigger. We really like these fan fiction stories because we play fantasy football and because we love this class so much. We want these guys to go into the first round because that's exciting draft capital. It's predictive of future success. But it's not reality. Reality is there's 11 other positions on offense, 10 other positions on offense, and 11 other positions on defense. There's a lot of needs to address. So picking one position to be that big of a surplus in the first round is not something I'm going to get behind. I'm not going to be suckered into taking the over. And there will be 5 exactly receivers taken in the first round. Bold take number 2. I hinted at Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix being being players that teams will target to potentially trade back up into the first round and select. Which is why bold prediction number 2 is that both Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. will be taken in the first round. So we will have 5 receivers and 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. This is where I see, actually we'll have 6 because JJ McCarthy will be a first round pick. But this is where I see the surplus being. There's a lot of QB needy teams right now, and 3 of them are in the top 3 picks. We have the Broncos and the Raiders and the Vikings, who are all kind of scrounging around there. The Broncos and the Raiders don't really have the greatest draft setup to take both of these players. The Broncos would most certainly have to either trade back or trade back up into the back of the first round. And it gets a little dicey at the back end of the first round and the beginning of the second round. You have teams that could potentially select a premium backup in Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. Tampa Bay, yes, they just signed Baker Mayfield to a lucrative extension, but if they were to get a sizable haul to trade back into the later first round or the beginning of the second round, they could very well take their Baker Mayfield replacement if they think that this is a strong enough draft class. And I get it. There's a lot of questions around, particularly Michael Penix's draft profile. But from a betting market standpoint, he is minus 190 to go to the first round. So it's becoming certain that Michael Penix Jr., who in my opinion has the more questionable prospect profile because he played football 6 years and has that injury history. Bo Nix played in a horrible system in Auburn, so he also has age not on his side like Michael Penix Jr., but he has more consistent production, and he had a solid production profile without having 2 receivers that might be top 40 picks. Troy Franklin, there's no odds anywhere for where he's going to go because of his pre-draft process. he could be a mid to late second round guy. We don't know. The market is starting to suggest that Bo Nix is the reason for Troy Franklin and not the other way around. Because if Troy Franklin was this Rome Odunze who was bringing up his quarterback, he would be a first round pick or suggested to be a top 40. And we are not hearing either of those things right now. So the market is suggesting that Bo Nix is the reason for Oregon's success. And he's plus 180 to go in the first round. So I'm in the camp of Denver trading back and taking either Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. I think Bo Nix. And the Raiders will look to do the same thing. They are also a candidate to trade back up into the first round. So no matter how it comes, no matter if they're drafted as starters, drafted as replacement backups, like a Jordan Love-esque type draft pick, even Kyle Trask was like a third round pick. But anyway, no matter how it comes, no matter who it's with, Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. will be first round quarterbacks. And the draft that we all expected would be so wide receiver heavy ends up getting 6 quarterbacks drafted in round 1. We will get to my last 3 bold predictions in just a moment. If you're in the chat, I'm going to be, we look back at these things. I will look back at the chat. We're going to have other, people from Player Profiler stopping in on the show potentially. So just because this is pre-recorded, doesn't mean I don't want to see your hot takes in the comments, in the chat. This is something, I'm going to look back. I do every time this is pre-recorded. I look back into the chat. So let me hear your hottest takes because it's the NFL draft. We gotta get these things on record. We gotta get the receipts. So let me know what you think of those first 2 bold predictions and what your biggest bold prediction is. And we will be right back after a message from the Podfather.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer. So you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team. And then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side. Prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing. And it's going to be well worth it.
We are back with Player Profiler today. I am your Saturday night host, Matt Babich. First 2 bold predictions summary. 5 receivers exactly will be drafted in round 1, along with Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., both being first-round picks. Now into bold prediction number 3. This is one of my favorite ones because I think every year we fall into the same trap. Again, I said, we want receivers to be drafted. We want fantasy football relevant players to be drafted in the first round. We also want a lot of trades to happen because that's exciting. We spend all offseason with the same 32 teams in the same order, projecting who they're going to pick where. And it becomes boring when we pick player X to go to team Y at this draft position over and over and over and over again. In fact, I understand why there's so many trades written up because there's only so many combinations that can happen. So at some point you have to get inventive at the risk of being wrong because it is content creation. It is entertaining. It needs to be fresh. But then again, we need to sit back and remember that these NFL teams are mundane. They don't care about our entertainment. They don't care about what we want to see. They care about what's best for their team. So there's been a ton of talk all year about different teams trading up, mostly the Minnesota Vikings trading up to 4 or 5. And I'm certainly calling BS on that one. I understand there's been a lot of reports saying that Minnesota is willing to go up. I am sure they are. But it's not about what Minnesota wants. Minnesota can't dictate anything. Yeah, if Monty could, or if Kwesi could snap his fingers and be in the top 4 or 5 picks, he would do it. But he has to convince the owners of these picks to get rid of them. And that's where the stall is going to come. So we look at the first 3. Even though we have heard some rumblings about New England, I don't think there's any chance they trade out of this pick. You have 3 quarterbacks that are expected to be the first 3 picks in the draft, and you need a franchise quarterback, at least an attempt at one. So the Patriots, this is a new organization. They are not going to do something crazy here. They're going to stand pat, and they're going to take the guy who they think can be their franchise quarterback, and they're going to try it out. So they're going to stay put. All of the first 3 teams are going to stay put. Then we get to Arizona at 4. So Arizona at 4, Marvin Harrison Jr., right? That's who we think this pick is going to be. The Cardinals haven't seemed super keen on trading this pick. Plus, they're letting go of Marquise Brown, and the keeping of Kyler Murray suggests that they're looking to get his Jamar Chase. This is the top receiver prospect that we have seen since, well, probably Jamar Chase, if not someone better. But in recent history, Jamar Chase. And that's who the Arizona Cardinals are going to try and get paired with Kyler Murray. If they trade this pick back, they would almost certainly miss out on Harrison Neighbors and Rome Odunze. And that's something this org is not likely willing to let happen, because they have worked their whole offseason strategy around this. It was very clear. They had plenty of cap space to sign Marquise Hollywood Brown at the contract level that he signed with the Chiefs. They could have upped that offer and gotten him to choose a less competitive location, but they didn't. They let him walk on a cheap deal, on a cheap veteran prove-it deal, because they have a plan. They have a replacement plan, and that does not come in the form of trading out of one of the top receiver prospects we've seen in recent history. It certainly doesn't mean missing out on the top 3 receiver prospects in one of the best receiver classes that we've ever had. So why would a team like Arizona let go of their only talented starting receiver? No disrespect to Michael Wilson, but let's be honest, not a number 1 guy. Similarly, why would the Chargers do the same thing? Why would the Chargers pass up on one of these guys after getting rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams? Joshua Palmer has the highest career receiving yards on that team. Joshua Palmer. Tell me that's a team that's going to throw away the opportunity to select one of Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze? Likely Malik Neighbors. No. The Chargers aren't going to do the Jordan Addison thing again. They're not going to screw that up. They're not going to pass up on Jordan Addison. Granted, they took Quentin Johnston. But they're not going to say no to the low-hanging fruit again. Not under this regime. Now, they may take Joe Alt. But again, Joe Alt is a player that's projected to go very high. So again, if they trade out, particularly trade out to 11, becomes very, very difficult to get these elite prospects that you want. And after this entire offseason that the Chargers have gone through, they need an elite prospect to add into this roster. It's probably going to be Malik Neighbors, and I would be very shocked if the Los Angeles Chargers traded out of the 5th pick. Now on to bold prediction number 4. I mentioned Adonai Mitchell being a receiver that is starting to creep out of the first round in terms of mock drafts. Mitchell is minus 150 to go past pick 27. That gives 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 for him to be drafted. So Arizona has the 27th pick. This is a spot where they're not going to double dip on first round receivers. I'll tell you that right now. So they either have to trade out, which I also don't think they'll do. You don't always get 2 first round picks, but sometimes getting that additional capital to move back is worth it. So they're either going to stay put and pick a different position of need, or they're going to trade out. And it's unlikely someone is going to be willing, especially within the first 10 picks of the second round, be willing to trade up all the way back into the first round to take a guy, Adonai Mitchell, who may not be considered a first round talent to a lot of these teams. So then you go to Buffalo. Buffalo is going to be taking a receiver. They may trade up to take a Brian Thomas Jr. They may take Brian Thomas Jr. at 28, but I don't think he'll go that far. Then we have Detroit, who doesn't seem to be in the market to take an elite receiver in the first round. We have Baltimore, who could be taking a guy like Xavier Worthy. And here's the thing. This is one thing I'm willing to fade the betting market on. Xavier Worthy is going to be picked before Adonai Mitchell. If there's any sort of versus that you can take there, I would take it. In fact, I would take the Xavier Worthy under on his draft position. I can't necessarily find it. It was 28.5. It was 29.5 last time I saw it, but I don't see it up right now on DraftKings. So I'm going to stop looking, but if you could take the under on 29.5 for Xavier Worthy, do that. So it's going to be a slippery slope once it gets to the back end of the first round. And if the market is already heavily hinting at him being a 28 or later pick, I'm willing to take the chance and say that Jalen Polk is going to be drafted ahead of Adonai Mitchell, because these are passing ships. Adonai Mitchell, recent reports have suggested that he has been hard to work with at times and he has an attitude problem. This related to actually his blood sugar. Adonai Mitchell reportedly has diabetes, and because of his blood sugar, the mood swings have caused him to potentially, tune out at times, be aggressive. Now, we have no idea what the Texas University or health organization was like for him. Maybe they weren't doing him enough justice, monitoring his blood sugar well enough. There's a lot of context there that I don't want to dive into. I'm merely relaying the reports, which we see it every year. We see it every year where these attitude concerns come out, and sometimes they're noise, sometimes they're signal. And the reason I think this might be signal is because the film does suggest that Adonai Mitchell takes plays off. In fact, it's one of the things that almost every single analyst who has dove into his film has come away with. And that's an issue, especially for NFL franchises, because they don't take kindly to that. You have to be a proven guy in the NFL to work your way around that. Deontay Johnson has proven his worth in the NFL. So even though you shouldn't be taking plays off, you get a little longer of a leash, not as a rookie. And so Adonai Mitchell's draft stock is falling while Jalen Polk's is rising. There's no betting market out right now for Polk, which means they're likely trying to figure out where to put it. They know the last time his market was out, it was too soft. His draft stock was increasing, so they pulled the bet, and they're trying to figure out where to place it. Probably won't be out until Monday or Tuesday, maybe even later. These betting markets are switching really quickly, so could be a while before we see this bet come back, but they definitely are looking to increase it because reports are suggesting that he is going to be a top 40 pick. And I'm going to buy into that. And I think within the first 10 picks of the first round, or the second round, pardon me, we're going to see Jalen Polk selected, followed by Adonai Mitchell. So bold take number 4 is that Adonai Mitchell is drafted after Jalen Polk. I'll follow up on Twitter at Babbage_Matt10 if I do see a line for Jalen Polk and where I'm going to be playing it. But right now, we're starting to see Adonai Mitchell creep out of the first round. We're starting to see Polk creep up into the top of the second round. And when passing ships happen like this, we generally see the one with more steam get taken ahead of the other player who's been plummeting in their draft stock. So we'll close things out here with bold take number 5, bold prediction number 5, and then the bonus bold prediction number 6. So number 5, Brock Bowers falls outside of the top 15. Potentially generational talent here in Brock Bowers. I don't think anyone's denying that. But this is about the market for tight ends. Kyle Pitts kind of scared people when he was drafted 4th overall. This wasn't something that had happened really ever. And he did not pay off on that draft capital. Whether that is his own fault or not is irrelevant. But it is scaring NFL GMs. Now, go to a draft class where potentially 4 quarterbacks are going to be selected somewhere between the top 5 to the top 10. The first 3 picks are definitely going to be quarterbacks. And 3 receivers could go top 10 as well. So if all that happens, we have 7 of the top 10 are already consumed. And then it starts getting who's going to take Brock Bowers. Chicago, no. Jets, maybe, but doubtful. Minnesota, likely not. Assuredly not. Denver, potentially would be a horrendous misuse of draft capital if they came away with pick 12 with no quarterback and no direction, no identity, taking Brock Bowers. It would be a horrible idea. The Raiders, again, they could. It would be a terrible idea. So those are the 2 teams that could screw this up, but I don't see it happening. New Orleans, add them to the list of people who could do it, but really shouldn't. And thus, I'm not going to assume that they are going to just completely misuse their capital and go after a tight end given their team structures. And then we have 15, which is the Colts. And so I said outside of the top 15, and that's where I really think this hinges, because first of all, Chris Ballard loves his athletes, loves them. So that is a reason why the Colts could go and draft Brock Bowers. The reason I don't think so is because Ballard has been on the record saying about how he likes his tight ends to be able to participate in the run blocking game and be a key portion of that. That's not something that Brock Bowers is. He's a receiver plus. He's a Mike Gesicki. He's not somebody who's going to be a George Kittle and be in there chipping linebackers. So I would lean 55-45 that the Colts don't take Brock Bowers, potentially trading out for someone who does want to take Brock Bowers. But then after 15, you have Seattle and Cincinnati at 16 and 18 who can both very well take him. And the floor is 18. The floor is 18. Cincinnati will not pass up the opportunity to take Brock Bowers. So right now the odds suggest he's going to be a top 12 pick. So I am taking the over on 12.5 because that firewall is the Denver Broncos, and I think that's very safe. So right now I'm very, 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 very okay with hitting the button on over 12.5 for Brock Bowers' draft position. And I think he falls outside of the top 15 picks. Right now, Brock Bowers over 12.5 is plus 160. I think that's pretty good value on a guy where just doesn't fit the needs of a lot of the teams before him. And pretty much 6 of the 12 picks where that he would have to go in are already accounted for. 3 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, potentially a 4th quarterback. So not a lot of options for Bowers to go in the top 12. So I think he falls outside of the top 15. Once you fall out of that position, you can end up free falling. And I think he goes 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals. And that is the top 5 bold predictions of mine for the NFL draft. Let me know which ones you hated. I don't really care about the ones you liked, honestly. No, I'm kidding. Let me know the ones you liked, but definitely let me know the ones you hate, because that's the discourse I enjoy the most here. But let me know your bold predictions. I'll be coming through these to see which ones I like. If there's any information that I'm missing that could lead to me making a good bet, I would very much appreciate that. Anything I missed, feel free to let me know. And we'll get out of here with a follow-up bold prediction, a bonus bold prediction. Jonathan Brooks, running back from Texas, tore his ACL, was repaired by the Cowboys team physician, Dr. Cooper, has a great relationship with the Cowboys, with Jerry Jones. There's a lot of ties, and this pick screams Jerry Jones. Jonathan Brooks goes to the Cowboys in the second round, and we have our new running back regime in Dallas. Good night, everyone.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.